Hi everybody, Jorge here, and today I want to talk about one very common phrase in a culture, and this is a biblical metaphor: casting pearls before swine. So I know this phrase is very common, and I think that regardless of your religion or of the fact whether you're religious or not, you have heard this phrase many times over the course of your life, and chances are that you have also used it. Because this is a phrase that is deeply entrenched in the culture, and it is applicable to so many situations. And I think that the reason why it has stuck around for such a long time after, biblical times is because it really resonates with people's experiences. So it's one of those metaphors that describes what we're experiencing in a truthful way, although not very polite way. But the thing is that for me personally, this metaphor has ignited conflicting feelings over the years. Because on the one hand, I loved it. I loved it because it, again, very accurately and very truthfully describe the experiences that I have had and that I have also seen in other people. But on the other hand, it pissed me off because I thought, like, how can we compare anybody to swine? This is dehumanization. This is this horrible, horrible process that historically enabled and continues to enable crimes against humanity. From the Holocaust to human trafficking happening today, to the history of slavery in America, to gay concentration camps in today's Russia. Like, at the core of those horrible things is dehumanization. It is speaking of other people as less than human, and treating, because it leads to treating them as less than human, to treating them like animals. And so, this is the reason why I thought, like, this metaphor may be very tempting, but it's not particularly good, because this is dehumanization, and I know how much harm and damage dehumanization can cause and how insidious it can be, because it starts with language. Dehumanization, it starts with images and language, and then it gradually shows up in the way that we treat those people that we dehumanize. But here's the thing, like, over the years, I have come to see this phrase has many interpretations. It can be interpreted in so many ways, and it can be abused, like many other biblical principles. But one very solid interpretation that I have seen many, many, many times and in many contexts is this: casting pearls before swine means that you don't offer your vulnerability to people who treat it like garbage. And for me specifically, in my experiences, it means you don't ask help from someone who constantly trivializes your story, who dismisses your feelings and your needs, and who rationalizes your trauma. You don't ask help from these people, no matter how much power they have to help you. And let me tell you, in so many of my videos, I say, do this, don't do that. And it will look like I'm this, self-righteous, arrogant, moralist asshole, who's just telling you what to do, what to not do. But the reality is that I screw it up constantly. Like, I'm not given advice from a position of superiority, because I am talking both to myself and to y'all. Because we're making these mistakes in the culture, we're making them together, and we have to fix them together too. So when it comes to casting pearls before swine, in the form of offering my vulnerability to people who treat it like garbage, let me tell you that I am, of all people, guilty of that. And I think that the biggest and the most contextual example of that, the example that is worth of being shared and I want to share with y'all in this video, is what happened during the 4 years of networking that I've been doing for my book, trying to get my book out there. So as many of you know, I wrote a novel, Souls of Silence. This is a love story. It's a work of fiction, but its plot is set against the background of 5 globally relevant social issues. Corruption, mental health stigma, homophobia, medical malpractice, and immigration. So those are the pressing social challenges that we have around the world today. And so basically my book is a work of art that addresses intersectional social justice. So it uses the power of creative storytelling to address intersectional social justice. And the thing is that from the very beginning of this project, like from the very first days that I started writing, I realized that there was no opportunity to get such a book out there in Russia, like here in the country where I live in, because it's too political, and basically talking about corruption, medical malpractice, homophobia in a country where the government works so hard to conceal those things, like, it's not realistic. Like being an activist in this country, it very often comes at a life's cost. So I started writing in English, and right from the beginning I was under no illusion that I would have to look for opportunities to get it out there abroad. And so after I finished the book, that's basically what I started doing. I started looking for and reaching out to people in Europe and America who had power and connections in the creative industry to help me build a platform for this project that I couldn't build on my own. As a person living in an oppressed country, in disadvantaged circumstances, having no resources, no connections, this is what my networking was about. To find people who were like-minded, who shared my values, and who also had the power to help me. But it's been 4.5 years now, and there were so many conversations, so many people that I have come across and had conversations with. And to my great, it's a grief and it's a heartbreak, but it's real, that my experience of networking for a project addressing intersectional social justice turned out to be cast in pearls before Swine. Like I was offering my vulnerability to people who treated it like garbage. And the most illustrative example of that was, my recent experience with a talent agent from Hollywood that happened last year. And, this is my sort of Me Too story because it involved emotional abuse, it involved power abuse, it involved abuse of privilege, and it even involved one minor episode of sexual harassment. It's beyond the scope of this video, obviously, but you can see it on my blog if you're interested, because this is a story that has so many contextual lessons to draw from it. So what did casting pearls specifically look like in my networking experience? Here's the thing: how do you do networking? Like, how do you do networking for a project like mine, for a project addressing social justice? The answer is you start and build conversations with people on the ground of shared values. So it's not like, going to a cocktail party, I don't go to cocktail parties, but if I went to cocktail parties, I can't imagine what it is, just come here to have fun, and with the intention of maybe to hook up with someone. So I spot someone attractive, and I, come over to them, and I chat them up, and I flirt with them, and if I'm lucky enough, I end up in bed with them that night. So networking is not this thing, this is completely different. This is something that you do for work, and especially when you do it for work that is addressing tough issues like social justice, then you have to start relationships with people on the basis of shared values. And so what I did over these years is I sought out and I found people who not only had some power and influence or connections to helping with my project, but who shared my values. And so I did find tons of people over these 4 years who passionately professed values like social justice, empathy, courage, the values that are so deficient in our culture, and the values whose deficit creates observable and measurable damage, both to individual lives and our functioning on a large scale as society, as an economy. And those are the values that my work demystifies and promotes. And so, those conversations began very well. And it was all on social media, mostly on Instagram, and those conversations began in such a great way. Like, it looked like I found my people, like I found people who were like-minded and like-hearted, and with whom I shared this common core of wanting to make this world a better place. And, and then in these conversations, weeks passed and then months passed, and it was all so great. And to me, it looked like we were building friendships. Like I and those people were building friendships because they were getting increasingly personal. And this is basically, trust and vulnerability are developing in a gradual way. So it's not that I could tell anybody, like on the second day of knowing them, that I could tell them, like I have cancer and I have no opportunity to treat it in this country that I live in, and and I have no economic opportunity here. Like my career has hit a dead end, and or it's not that I had blasted people with my experiences of clinical depression or suicidal ideation, before, like it's not that I barely knew someone and told them about my darkest struggles. But people were getting personal with me over time, and it was normal. And they made me feel like I could be safe, reciprocating that vulnerability, also in a healthy and gradual way. But the hard truth is that the outcome of those relationships that I had once believed to be friendships, the outcome was invariable, because every time I communicated that I needed help with my project, every time I explained the disadvantaged circumstances that I was living in here in Russia as a reason of why I couldn't get this project off the ground on my own, every time I showed my vulnerability and my need, these people slammed the door in my face. Most of the time sugarcoating their refusal to understand my experience and to help me in niceties, in politeness, like, you're a wonderful writer, you're gonna be alright, you're gonna be fine, keep going, destiny sends you what you need. And this was especially flagrant in this last experience with a Hollywood agent, because this was the person who for 1 year told me how much he appreciated my friendship, how much he loved my work, how much he was rooting for me, and that he loved me forever. And and like all those, statements that made me believe that we actually had a friendship, because this is like, this is how I saw him, because he had a podcast where he talked about spirituality and empathy and social justice, and how he appreciated people who basically contribute to those things in innovative and daring ways. And so when this person, living a very privileged life in Los Angeles and West Hollywood, having access to one of the best healthcare systems in the world, when I tell him that I have cancer and that my work is the only opportunity, like now, it is the only opportunity for me personally to earn the treatment, the life-saving treatment that I need, and then I can only get abroad. And when I tell this to him, he's like, well, destiny sends you what you need. Like, so I need to die from cancer in my 30s. Like, this is the person who said how much of a friend he was, and how he appreciated my friendship, and how he loved me, and how he loved my work. And, the person who himself, was going out there having cosmetic surgeries, going to luxury resorts all over the world, having, this excellent healthcare available to his family, some of whom struggled with cancer too. But to me, my cancer and my inability to get treatment in the country where I live in is what destiny gives me, because I need it. This is it. This is the thing. And but it was wrapped in politeness. It was sugar-coated. It was, and every time when such an outcome happened, it broke my heart. I was gutted and devastated and disgusted. And make no mistake, it's not because I took it personally. I rarely, if ever, have I put some of my personal worth on the table in relationships with those people. It's not like, I ask for help with my work and putting my personal words on the table. But what I have seen and what made me so disgusted and so devastated is that these people carefully avoided to practice the values that they had so passionately professed, and even worse, made money from professing. Like this, the hypocrisy was the most disgusting part. And so, as it happened over and over again, and I contextualized those experiences, I've come, to realize that the deficit of courage in our culture, it doesn't only show up as the deficit of empathy, but it also shows up as the deficit of integrity. So we have this epic flooding of hypocrisy created by people in positions of power and privilege. And now the Keston Pearls part here was that every time I got a door slammed in my face, I thought, maybe that person didn't get me right. Maybe I should explain my situation again in a different way at a different moment. Maybe this person was having a bad day, or they had just broken up with someone they'd been dating, or someone had cut them off on the road, when they were on the way. I would think that I was trying to be generous, and so I thought I need to make positive assumptions about people and be non-judgmental. But most of all, I was thinking, these people are powerful, they have connections. And who am I? I'm a guy from a third world country without a penny in his pocket, barely making ends meet, working in dead-end jobs in a corrupt industry within a tanking economy, unable to get out of poverty despite university education, and having his own health fall apart in his late 20s without access to adequate health care. So who am I? And who are those people? Because the hard truth is that talent is universal and opportunity is not. And so I decided I can't give up on these people so soon, I need to ask them again. I need to knock at the door that was slammed in my face again. And so I was making these excuses for people who in fact were emotionally abusing me. And what completely slipped my understanding is that by being sort of generous and non-judgmental towards them, I was being disrespectful towards myself, towards my worth, towards my work, towards the people that my work could serve, towards my story. And most importantly, I was being disrespectful towards the truth of what was going on between me and them. Because the truth was that by not giving up on those people, I every time effectively gave up on myself. And so the takeaway message from those experiences that I wanted to share with you on this video is that no amount of your empathy and generosity can fix other people's lack of integrity. So you don't offer what's sacred, wholehearted, and genuine to people who are chicken shit, hypocritical, and phony. Because the more of it you offer, the further the abuse will go. And I know it very well from my personal experience. And as Maya Angelou said, when people show you their true colors, believe them the first time and stop expecting them to be anything other than who they are. That's hard, but that's real. And, my experience is that a big obstacle to following this principle is the belief that there are only so many people out there who have power. The belief that power, being the ability to affect change, is a finite resource, that there's scarcity of it out there. So, and that's understandable. When you're someone like me, someone who comes from a disadvantaged background, someone who dares greatly against overwhelming odds, someone who spent the majority of his or her life oppressed, silenced, disempowered, trapped amidst absence of opportunity. So when you're someone with a story like mine, then you've been conditioned by your circumstances to see power as a finite resource that only select few people have access to. And so when you get into a relationship with a person that has the kind of power that you need in order to change your life, you hold on to this relationship so tight, believing that if you let go of this person, then you won't ever find anyone else who's able to effect change for you. But that is not true. That is just not true. Because real power, real ability to effect change is not finite. The infinity of it, most of all, resides within you, within your wild heart, within your bold, brave dreams. What is finite is power over. And these people who abuse you, who manipulate you, who build walls in your face, who treat your dreams and your feelings and your story like garbage, these people don't represent real power. These people represent power over. These people represent oppressive power, the kind of power derived from randomness rather than merit. And this kind of power is now making its desperate last stand around the world. And these people are going to fall with it. So if you want to build a different kind of world, if you want to contribute to the ongoing transition from the world of power over to the world of power with and power among, to the world of universal equality and dignity, to the world where everybody has a voice and a seat at the table, to the world where everybody has equal access to opportunity and basic human needs, then you've got to let go of people who carefully protect their privilege, their comfort, and their status at the cost of leaving the majority of others in hurt and pain and trauma. You gotta let go of these people whose need for comfort is bigger than their respect for truth. And since truth is sacred, these people, I believe, are who Jesus referred to as swine in his metaphor. And this is why, after all of my experiences, I believe that this metaphor, although very far from being politically correct, is nevertheless profoundly truthful. So I do hope you take this message constructively. If it resonates with you, if you find it insightful, don't hesitate to share it with your friends. Please also leave me a comment below. I would love to have a great, maybe theological debate with y'all on the meaning of this metaphor. And I'm going to tell you one thing, because I have come across it in the comments on my previous videos, and I'm going to tell you this now. I'm very much open and interested in having a civil, respectful debate. I believe that truth is being born in debate, and one of those conflict transformation skills is that when you and I have different opinions, when we challenge each other, then we may find the truth that has never occurred to either of us before our debate. So I'm very much interested in having a debate in a civil and respectful way. But if you come here to shame, insult, dehumanize, name call anyone, including me or other people leaving comments, then I'm gonna delete you. Then I'm gonna ban you from the page because you're contributing nothing to the conversation, and I won't allow your shit to take up space on my page. So you can have your own page. This is social media. You can create your own page and you can spread your shit around on your own page. But this is my page, and I'm in charge of making it the place where bullying, shaming, and dehumanizing is not tolerated. It will not become another place in social media where those things and those behaviors are tolerated. So I'm going to take care of that, and this is my responsibility. So thank you all for understanding. Thank you all for joining me today. Thanks for your time. I know it's been a lot. As always, don't forget to subscribe and take care, be brave, and stop casting pearls before those who don't deserve them. Bye.